All right, so what you saw was the ABS module and all lines removed from the car. I did this to mostly just simplify things in the engine bay. I mean, the pump and everything actually worked just fine. I just wanted some space over here, just less clutter in the bay. Just an ABS removal kit. Install for these is pretty easy. Really the biggest challenge is just re-bleeding brakes. So yeah, like I said, that just kind of freed up some space over here. It also freed up the lines that run across the firewall. It also made me realize how dirty this engine bay really is. In the previous video where I did the engine bay cleaning, I really scrubbed this paint. But you could just tell how dirty that is. Just take a look here versus like over here. I did some extensive scrubbing on this just to remove that. I tried a couple different things. I scrubbed pretty hard on this strut tower to where I actually scrubbed some of the paint off. Crazy enough. But thankfully these strut towers have zero rust. The car has no rust at all, which is a pretty common issue with the R34 chassis. Like I said, these strut towers are super clean. You've seen under the car, it's in immaculate shape. So I'd rather have some dirt than rust. I also replaced all of the hardware that was taken off. Stuff like these little bolts in here, the actual valve cover bolts I replaced. I also just ran over the heat shields for the turbo manifold. Just ran over those with a quick coat of paint. Also replaced the hardware while I was in there. I replaced a couple more clamps, bolts, cleaned up a few other things. I had this throttle body off, so I replaced the gasket, replaced the bolts while I was in there. Another thing I did, which is a common issue on really any Skyline, is I replaced this coil pack harness. These get really brittle over time with the heat in the valley cover. I mean, this thing is about as stiff as you can get. The plugs too, they get really stiff and usually break. So I replaced that with just a wiring specialties replacement harness. Really nice little upgrade while you're in there. And of course, one final thing that has been bothering me is the last blue hose in this engine bay. That needs to go, but I need to find the right diameter for that hose. That's annoying. Another thing I had done, my good buddy Alan did a muffler delete on the back section. The muffler that was in it was HKS, but it was a pretty baffled, pretty mild muffler, and I couldn't hear anything with it. So I decided, you know what, let's just do something cool. So we went ahead and he welded this. It's a 3.5 inch stainless exhaust pipe. Just welded that onto where I don't know if you can really see it well, where we cut the HKS muffler off. Really nice install. I also replaced the exhaust hangers with some polyurethane ones to kind of stiffen things up for the exhaust as well. So I'd like to do a nice sound test with this. So hopefully we'll have a cool little sound bite. A little better view of the exhaust setup Alan did for me. Like I said, just a 3.5 inch stainless pipe, and then we used a 3.5 inch to 3 inch adapter. Weld, make sure everything looks lined up, and yeah, it turned out really good. And here's the polyurethane hangers. Can just really stiff this exhaust up. So one of the other issues that I noticed in the car was the transmission mount was a little worn out. So I went ahead and purchased the Nismo transmission mount. See what kind of difference this thing makes and get it thrown on the car. Also, for those curious of how I get this thing on my lift, this is the process I have to do. So I have to drive up on pieces of wood to drive up on this ramp in order to clear the front bumper. And then I have to obviously slide the arms under, but then I have to jack up the rear of the car in order to get the arms under there. It's definitely a process. So I gave the car a quick little wash. This thing always cleans up super nice. Such a cool car. I'm really glad I'm getting this thing dialed in the way I've always wanted it. Replacing some needed stuff, upgrading some stuff while I'm in there. Car's really taking shape. I'm really loving driving it as well. It's such a good car.